Good morning, Year 10. I want to take an opportunity this morning to discuss with you the arrangements around the Year 10 mock exams which are coming up in June, including why you'll be sitting the Year 10 exams, when the exams will be, practical information about what you need to know during the exam period, such as where to go, at what time, and finally some advice and guidance as to how you can prepare for the Year 10 exams. There's a number of reasons why we have Year 10 exams at Priory School. One of the main reasons is that it gives you an opportunity to practice what it's like to prepare for and sit an exam. This is useful as you reach the end of Year 10 and begin to transition into Year 11, where you'll sit your GCSEs next summer. It is important that you take the Year 10 exams seriously and do invest some time into preparing for them for a number of reasons. First of all, the Year 10 exams will help you to start to get used to exam pressure. You'll sit the Year 10 exams in an exam venue, either the chapel, the hall or the lecture theatre, or it could be a smaller venue if you've got exam arrangements that allow for this. You have an opportunity to learn how to line up for exams, what you can and cannot bring into the exams, and how you're expected to conduct yourself under the JCQ rules. Now, these are strict rules that are outlined for all students sitting examinations in the country. The more times you practice this, the less daunting taking and going to an exam becomes as you begin to know exactly what to expect. The Year 10 exams also give you opportunities to learn and practice how to prepare for exams, and I'll be giving you some guidance later in this assembly as to some tried and tested revision strategies, and your teachers will be giving you guidance in class as they set you your revision homeworks between now and the start of the exams. You'll be given guidance from each of your subject teachers as to which topics that have been studied in Year 10 that will be on your exam papers and how to go about revising them. This is a perfect opportunity to begin to build your revision notes if you haven't started these already. So these might be flashcards, they might be mind maps, for example, that you can keep and add to as you progress throughout Year 11. It's good practice to keep revising little and often as you move through Year 11, so you build your knowledge and understanding throughout the year rather than all at the end. This will put you in a more organised and much better place next summer. So some information about the Year 10 mock exam week. So the Year 10 mock exam week will take place the weeks commencing the 19th and the 26th of June. Mr. Turner and I will be writing home very soon with details of your exam timetable for the week and expectations, including the JCQ rules that must be followed by all students during the exams. Each exam during the week will be an hour long. Now, this is shorter than you'd experience in your Year 11 mocks in November and for your mocks in the core subjects in February, and then obviously in your GCSEs in the summer. But it does provide you with an opportunity for your first experience at sitting exams on what you have studied so far in Year 10. There will not be content in the exam papers that you have not covered so far. So everything in those exam papers will be what you've covered in Year 10. There will be no surprises, there will be no new topics. Once you have your exam timetable, you'll know exactly which exams you have for which subjects, what you have each day during the week. You will know where you'll be sitting the exam, whether that's the chapel, the hall, the lecture theatre or a smaller venue, and at what time the exam begins. And it is important that you check your timetable and you know what you are doing when. You'll be allocated a specific desk to sit at for each exam. Now, this won't be on your exam timetable. So before the exam, and I suggest the day before, you need to check the exam board opposite reception to find out which row and which desk you are sat at for that exam. So whether you're in the hall, the chapel or the lecture theatre, find out where you are sitting in advance. On the day, you need to arrive at the exam venue 5 minutes before the start of the exam. If your exam is in the hall, you will line up in the dining hall. And on the wall in the dining hall will be letters of the alphabet, and those letters will correlate with the letters of each row. So you need to find the letter of your row and line up in the dining hall in front of that letter so that we can get you into the hall promptly. If your exam is in the chapel, you'll line up outside the chapel, again in front of the letter of your row so that we can get you into the exam promptly. And if you're in the lecture theatre, you will line up in the servery. After each exam, you'll go back to your lessons. The week before the exams, your teachers will use the week to support your revision in lessons. Now, this supports the revision you've completed at home, and you should make sure that you bring your revision flashcards, whether they're notes, mind maps, flashcards, or questions that you've been doing at home, to your lessons. And it is expected that you'll revise at home as well as in school during that week. Now, your teachers will be checking that you're doing so, and they'll be supporting you where you have questions or you need further help or guidance. Once you've sat your exam in each subject during those weeks, your teachers will then go back to teaching you new content. Preparation is going to be key for you folks, so make sure that on the day of the exam you are prepared. So in terms of being key for your success, I don't just mean key to success in terms of your outcomes and how well you perform, but I also mean preparation is key to how you feel during the exams. And it's really important that during your exams and during your revision time that you're supporting your own well-being as well. So organisation is a really good way to feel prepared and to support your well-being throughout the exam period. So, a way to get organised. The day before each exam, make sure you have the equipment you need for the following day ready before you go to bed. Eat well the night before and go to bed at a time that allows you to get 8 to 9 hours sleep. Don't cram your revision into the night, so if you start spacing your revision out from this week onwards, there is no need to cram your revision into a few hours before the exam. Before you go to bed, before each exam, make sure you've got your school uniform ready. Make sure you've got your exam equipment packed in your bag, including all your pens, your pencils, your rulers, a calculator, in a clear pencil case. So you might need to make sure that you've got that organised in the coming weeks and that you've got yourself a clear pencil case. And make sure you've got a clear bottle of water that you can take into the exam. On the morning of the exam, set your alarms, make sure you've got up in good time, ready to have some breakfast before you leave for school. Find out where you're sitting the day before the exam using the exam notice board. Make sure you know the row you're sitting in and the desk, and make a note of it. And you can always go back and check the exam notice board on the morning of your exam. If you take any medication, such as you have an asthma inhaler or perhaps you take hay fever medication, make sure you've got that prepared for you on the morning of the exam. Your mock timetables will be sent to you. They are being prepared now and will be ready soon. And they will go out to you very soon with a letter also explaining the arrangements, including the JCQ guidelines. Malpractice is something that we take very seriously at Priory School. JCQ, as I've mentioned before, are the body which sets out the expectations and rules as to how students must conduct themselves during examinations across this country. Now, it's essential that you get to know the rules, that you get used to these rules and that you follow them. And as a school, we expect you to follow them and take any malpractice very seriously. Now, when I say malpractice, what I'm talking about here is any act or practice which breaches regulations or which gives rise to prejudice to candidates, which compromises public confidence in qualifications, which compromises the process of assessment, the integrity of any qualification, or the validity of a result or certificate, or something that damages the authority, the reputation, or the credibility of any awarding body or centre. Now, a very sort of obvious way that we can avoid malpractice at Priory School is by making sure that we take in the right things to the exams and that we conduct ourselves in the exams in the right way. So you must make sure that you do not have any of these items with you when you go into the exam room. You are not allowed mobile phones. You are not allowed MP3 or MP4 players or any other similar device. You are not allowed to wear watches. And as of the 1st of September 2021, students are no longer allowed to wear a watch of any type in the exam room. Now, there are clocks in the exam room, so you'll know how much time you've got, you'll know how much time you've got left, but you may not wear a watch. Another thing that we need to be really aware of is malpractice also involves communicating. So as soon as you enter the examination venue, you must not communicate with or distract other students, and any incidences of this will be taken very seriously by the school. So I just want to spend some time now with you and with your tutors thinking about how can you plan for and how can you prepare for the Year 10 mock exams. And this is really good guidance through a number of tried and tested routines and strategies that have been used by educators in schools throughout many years. So I'm going to share just a few with you, so as not to overcomplicate things, but to try and give you some useful things that you can use to help you revise. Now, first of all, it's really important when you start thinking about revision to have a plan. And it's important that you take some time to write your revision plan. You need to think about which subjects have you got exams for and which topics are going to be covered within those subjects. So this week, your teachers, your Year 10 teachers will be telling you what content is going to be in the exam. Now, once you know what content is going to be in the exam, you can then start writing your revision plan. Now, you need a long-term plan, and I'm going to give you some guidance on how to do that, of what to cover up until the exam, and then your short-term plan, where you can plan your sort of days and what you're going to do each day, including having time for you as well. Well-being is really important. You need to make sure that you include in your revision plan the time for things that you enjoy and the time for activities that will help you to relax during the exams. So I've given a copy of this study planner to your form tutors. Now there's 2 pages to this. There's week 1 and there's also week 2. And what you'll notice on your study planner is for each day, you've got the timings of the day down the side. You've got the school day blocked out in grey, so that's obviously when you'll be in lessons, and then you've got your time after school. Now what you need to start doing this week is filling in when you're going to study what during the week. I would start off with putting in your commitments and your activities. So start to, maybe in one colour, write in when you've got after school clubs or when you have activities that you like to do that you know are going to take up your time. Also then start to write in your rest breaks or your family time or things that you like to do to give you a rest during your revision periods. And that's really important for well-being. Once you've done that, you know what time you've got available, and then you want to start doing your revision. Now, I would suggest doing 2 or 3 chunks of revision each evening. And when I say a chunk, I mean no longer than 25 to 30 minutes for each piece of revision. So for example, you might decide on a Monday that you're going to do a chunk of geography revision, a chunk of maths revision, and a chunk of science revision. And you might decide to use one of the strategies that I'm going to teach you during this assembly to revise that material or that specific content for that subject. I would strongly suggest you don't do any more than 25 or 30 minutes per subject each evening, and you don't go over an hour and a half or 2 hours maximum for each evening, because otherwise what will happen is that you will overload your memory and you'll start to forget things much more quickly. So the first thing then is you know which subjects you've got coming up this week. Your teachers will be telling you. You'll know the content. So start to, in your week 1 and your week 2, or you could label them week A and week B, put in what subjects you're going to revise throughout each of the weeks. And then you can alternate your weeks and keep coming back to the subjects as we do week A, week B, week A, week B over the coming weeks. It's important that you space out your subjects. So you want to keep coming back to your subjects. So for example, if you decide that you're going to revise maths on Monday, you want to come back to maths again probably by Thursday and probably again by the following Monday. If you decide you're going to revise science on Tuesday, you want to come back to science on Friday, maybe come back to it again on Sunday, maybe go back to it again the following Tuesday. Okay, so you want to keep spacing out your subjects so that you've got a little bit of time in between each subject, that you can map out all your subjects for the week, and that you do fit all your subjects into your revision timetable in a sensible and structured way. So I'm just going to talk to you about a few study habits, or a few strategies, if you like, that you can use to help you revise. And one of the first ones that I find useful and have been tried and tested are flashcards. So these are flashcards, and I'm going to show you how to use these. Now, this is an example of an English flashcard, but you can do this for pretty much any subject. On the front of your flashcard, you can put in a particular phrase, or you could write a question, or you could put a keyword, something that you want to revise. And then on the back, you put in the content. So what it is that you need to remember about that keyword, or that subject, or that particular question. And once you've written your set of flashcards, you can then use these to test yourself or to get somebody else to test you. So they're really useful strategies. Another way to use flashcards is to do a see it flashcard. So on the front of your flashcard, you might state the idea. So it could be a fact that you've learned in science. You then elaborate on the idea. So what is that fact? What is it about? You then exemplify it. So can you give an example of that fact? Now that doesn't always apply, but it's a good way of giving examples if it does apply. Can you illustrate it with a metaphor? So what might it be like? Now you can't always do that, but if you can, it's useful because it helps trigger a memory. And then finally, once you've got your flashcard, you can then talk about it with someone else. So you could put your flashcard away, and then maybe later on in the week when you come back to that subject, you can get somebody to test you on it, or you can talk them through your flashcard. You can also use flashcards in subjects like maths. So for example, in this example, on the front, you've got almost like the rule, the instructions for what you're doing in maths. So this is a circle theorem. And on the back, you've got some examples. Now, you could put on the back some questions that you could practice, or you could put on the front the question and on the back the answer. So there's lots of different ways you can use flashcards, but essentially what you're doing is putting the information down in a simpler form to help you remember it, and then giving yourselves an opportunity to practice it. And very often you might want to put your practice, so elaborating on something, or putting the answers to a question on the back of your flashcards. And then you can get somebody to help you practice. That could be a peer, could be a friend, could be your parents, so that you can try and remember it. So in this example, you've got the front, a list of factors, and on the back, some questions, and this is a mathematics flashcard. Here's an example from geography. So if I was using the content list from, say, my Year 10 geography exam, I've got some questions here that my geography teacher's given me. I could write the question on the front of my flashcards. I could write the answer on the back. Or if I was revising some content that my geography teacher's given me, I could put what it is I want to revise on the front of my flashcard, and then I could start elaborating on my notes on the back, giving my examples on the back of my flashcard, as I showed you before. So by the end of your revision, you'll have a series of flashcards for each subject. Now, what you might want to do is get different colour flashcards for each subject, or you could use different colours and just colour code maybe a dot in the corner or a square in the corner to show that green is my science flashcards, blue are my maths flashcards, red are my English flashcards, and so on. So that will help you keep your flashcards in good order. Okay, so this is an example of how I might structure my flashcards, and I might decide that I've got my different colours of flashcards, and that actually within my revision I'm going to do my pink English flashcards on Monday, I'm going to do my green maths flashcards on Tuesday, my yellow French maths cards on Wednesday, my orange geography flashcards on Thursday, and so on. And I can either get my flashcards in those colours, or I could just use some felt tip pens or something to put the colour onto my flashcards so that I can keep everything nice and organised and keep coming back to my flashcard every time I have it on my revision timetable that I've already worked out. Okay, another strategy is mind maps. A lot of you are familiar with mind maps, and they're a really useful technique to help you to revise. They work in a fairly similar principle to flashcards. When you're doing a mind map and they look like this, what you want to have is your central idea or your central concept or your topic in the middle of your mind map, and then all the different bits of information branching off your mind map. Okay, so it could be a topic in geography, such as natural hazards. That could be the centre of my mind map. And then coming off that, I could have information about volcanoes, about earthquakes, about different types of plate boundaries, about case studies that I've learned. So by the time I've finished my mind map for that topic, I've got all my information in one place. I can then use that to come back to it to see how much I can remember. I can cover up certain aspects, see what I can remember of those aspects. I could give my mind map to a friend or to my parent and to help me and quiz me on different aspects of my mind map. And that helps you to revise that particular topic or that particular part of content for that subject. So you might decide, actually, flashcards aren't for me. I would rather have everything in one place on my mind map, because that helps me to make better sense of the topic that I'm covering. It's useful to do some study capture. Now, I'm going to take you through 2 techniques that you might want to use at the end of your revision session. So if you've done, say, half an hour or 25 minutes on a Monday of maths, half an hour or 25 minutes on a Monday of science, and then maybe half an hour or 25 minutes on a Monday of media studies, that's quite a lot of information. And at the end, it's useful to capture that information, to try to just give yourself 5 minutes to think about, okay, what can I remember now? One way to do this is to use a study capture sheet. And essentially what you do is you put your mind maps away, you put your flashcards away, and in 5 minutes, and you can set a timer on your phone or on your watch, in 5 minutes, you write down in a table the subject that you've covered, the topic that you've covered, the key ideas that you can remember, the key words that you can remember, and give yourself a rating as to how much you can remember, maybe red, amber, green, or a score out of 5. Okay, and it's a very good way of making you think hard without looking at your notes about, from today's revision, what can I remember very succinctly in one place. And I've given your tutor some copies of these so that they can give those to you to make a start if you want to, using that as part of your revision. Another way that you could bring all your revision together at the end of a revision session is a Freya flashcard. Now essentially all you do is take a flashcard, fold it into 4, and without looking at your notes, without looking at your flashcards that you prepared earlier or your mind maps that you prepared earlier, write down 4 things that you can remember, your 4 takeaways, 4 simple statements. And it's basically about forcing your memory to think harder and to think about, what have I learnt during this study session that I can take away with me? And actually, it's really nice to do this sort of exercise, this and the Freya flashcards, because it really does help you see that you are remembering things and that you are taking things in during each revision session. Finally, think about the environment that you have when you're revising. So think about having as clear a space as possible to revise in. Think about how long you're going to revise for. Revising late into the night is not a good strategy. When you're tired and you're trying to revise, it's much less effective. And think about removing distractions. So things like mobile phones, things like music. It's actually shown that having music on when you're revising is not productive to memory. So turn things like music, television, any gaming, anything like that, turn it off, put it away, and set yourself out a period of time where you can revise without distractions. I want you to think during this period as well about your well-being. Now this is a really helpful slide because there are different aspects of our well-being that help us to sort of manage how we're feeling and how we're managing situations, and we can refer to these as rocks of well-being. So sleep is vital. Make sure that you are getting enough sleep each night. Exercise is important. So make sure that you are getting some sort of physical activity each day, or you're putting it into your revision timetable so that you get out and you get out and about. Healthy eating is important. Eat well during the examination period. Thinking about your emotions as well. So it is healthy to have a certain amount of apprehension sometimes about exams, and it's a perfectly normal feeling. Okay, but if you feel like these things are getting on top of you or a bit too much, think about how you can speak to people in school or to your friends or to somebody at home about how you're feeling during this time. So keep in check with how you're feeling and your emotions. Walking outside is proven to be a good relaxation strategy, especially during examination periods. Connecting with others, so you might, for example, talk to other people, you might go and do some exercise with other people, you might walk outside with other people, you might meet up with your friends, for example. These are proven strategies to help manage how you're feeling particularly during examination time. Music, but not while you're revising, is important and also helps with your well-being. Mind wandering as well, just be cautious of mind wandering, so making sure that you are staying sort of focused in on what you need to during your revision time, so removing all those distractions so that you can focus in on your revision. Mindfulness is good to practice and sort of being in tune with how you're feeling during the revision time. And gratitude and kindness as well, so thinking about, you know, for you, how you are with other people, how you're treating other people, makes you feel good inside when you are sort of exhibiting those behaviours as well. Okay, do what you love. So make sure that in your revision timetable, you have put out some time for the things that you enjoy doing. If you enjoy doing particular sports, keep doing those sports. If you enjoy doing particular activities after school, keep doing those activities after school and work your revision as much as you can around those. So it's all about balance, and it's all about keeping your revision in balance with your well-being and with the other things that you have in your life that keeps you happy and keeps your well-being in check. So just a little bit here about things that are good for brain health and things that are not so good for brain health. So we've talked about having a healthy diet. We've talked about having focused and deliberate work. So thinking about having that revision timetable is going to be really important, because you want to make sure that each day you know exactly what you're doing, how you're going to go about doing it, so that you can be really focused. Deliberate rest, so making sure that you stick to your revision timetable. When you've done your revision for the day, put it away, go and do an activity you enjoy, or have some sleep or have some rest, whatever it is that you need to do. We've talked about the 12 rocks, we've talked about exercise, we've talked about, I think most things on here, exercise and activity are going to be really important for you. And things that are less important, or things that actually are negative, that do not help, are things like having a poor sleep routine. Frazzlement, so feeling really worn down. So stick to your revision timetable and be mindful of how you feel. You can always change things slightly as you go through your revision as to how you're feeling as well. Be aware of things like eating high sugar foods, which can be quite negative to things like focus, for example. Be aware of sort of having low challenge and boredom. So when you're doing your revision, think about challenging yourself to do some questions, for example, challenging yourself to work out some mathematical problems on your flashcards, so that your brain is working hard when it needs to be working hard, and when you know that actually I've got this, I know this, and so now I can work hard with it. So finally, I've given your teachers or your form tutors this sheet here, and these are your 12 rocks of well-being. And what I would like to encourage your tutors to do is a couple of times maybe during each week, just to check in with you as to how you were doing in terms of your well-being, to make sure that you are monitoring your sleep and that you are getting enough sleep, that you are getting the exercise you need to be getting, and to check in that you're okay, but also for you to check in on each other and to check in on yourself. So it's a good practice to perhaps do this sheet a couple of times a week, just to make sure that you are not neglecting your well-being during this time, and that you are making sure that you monitor how you are doing as well. And finally, communication and listening is really important. So if you feel like you need to reach out to somebody, you've got your form tutor that you can reach out to, you have your head of house that you can reach out to, and we also have services within the school that you can reach out to during this time. So make sure that you are managing your well-being, but also make sure that you are managing all of your sort of workload, your revision during this time, and that you know that if you need support, that support is here for you and available at school. So thank you everybody for listening to the assembly today. Quite a long assembly today. So in the next sort of few days in tutor time, start working on your revision programs, take your revision timetables with you, start working out what you need to be doing when, and start talking to your teachers this week about what's going to be in my Year 10 exam, what content is there going to be, what topics do I need to focus on, and look out for the letter that Mr. Turner and I will be sending home very soon with your exam timetable and all the expectations that we expect of you during the exam, so you know exactly what is coming up. Thank you very much, Year 10.